Welcome, everyone, to our fourth session of our webinar series. Once again, Ctrl+Alt+Human. This is going to be our fourth with another interesting topic, and one of my favorite topics, actually, since I am also the one that is exposed to this topic and subject. Maybe not throughout my life, but at the moment, actually. It's about language, culture, and how living abroad shapes the way we think and we make decisions, our thought process. Our speaker today is Idil. She's one of our consultants who applies psychological insights to business, culture, and human behavior. She brings over 2 decades of experience in training and intercultural research. Idil holds a bachelor degree in psychology from Boğaziçi University and a master's from communications from Emerson College in Boston. She's been with Baltaş Group, as I said, since 2000, and she works as a content developer and trainer, and also with a particular focus on cultural research and workshops. She is also the author of 2 books, very interesting topics as well. It's about Turkish culture and emotional intelligence from a comparative perspective. She takes it. And her first book, already published in Turkish, will be published in English under the title Inside the Turkish Mind. The books are about Turkish mind and Turkish heart. How does the Turkish heart beats and how does the Turkish mind works? And she brings a lot of insight. She's going to bring a lot of insight and experience today to our presentation. And yes, so with that, Idil, I think it's over to you.
Hello. Thank you.
Hello.
Living in a multilingual environment and communicating in a language that's not our own might affect us in certain ways that we might not be even aware of. So what are these effects? Our first topic of discussion would be about these effects. And our second topic of discussion would be about personality and culture, how they affect each other, how they interact, and what if they fit, and what does this mean, and what are the impacts? Before I begin, I would like to note that everything I say is based on scientific research, but scientific research shows the general tendencies in groups, in populations, and not universal truths applicable to every single individual. So everything I say should be taken as this. So having said that, let's start with a little practice. I will show you some colors like this. And please, can you tell out loud to yourself, like, can you say the color of the ink? Not what is written there, but the color of the ink, please. Can you say this out loud? Like here, obviously, it is red.
I think we're not seeing the screen share just yet, so maybe...
You're not?
Not yet. So
Actually, I'm seeing it.
You're seeing it. Okay, I'm not seeing it. Perfect. If you're seeing it, fine. Okay. Anyway, I think if
any problems?
Please write into chat if you face any problems with seeing.
Maybe it's on my end.
Can somebody write? Yes, please, if you are seeing or not, because you should be seeing the sign red on the screen.
All right, people can see it, I believe.
Perfect. Fine. My end.
Okay.
Yes, looks red.
Okay. Okay, once again, please, can you say out loud what color the ink is? Not what is written there, but what color the ink is. Here, obviously, it's red. But here, it's again red, okay? So as I move through the visuals, can you please say out loud what color the ink is? I'm starting.
Oh. That is difficult to follow, isn't it?
No. How was it?
Yeah, that is difficult to follow.
Should be green.
Yeah, that is difficult to follow. I mean, and the more you increase the pace, you have to see the contrast and articulate the right color. Although it gives the message that what you need to articulate. So yeah, it's a different experience.
Yeah, the faster, the maybe harder.
Yeah.
The thing is, why did we do that? The thing is, if you're a multilingual person, if you're a bilingual person, you performed better on this test. This is called Stroop test. You performed better on this test, like more accurate and faster. I tell you why, and I tell you why that important is. See, this is, in fact, basically the same process that we go through when we speak a second language. Like there are two responses, two systems operating at the same time when we speak a second language. Both our native language and the second language. They are active simultaneously. They are active at the same time, automatically. And what we have to do is that we have to inhibit the irrelevant one, in this case, our native language, and we have to focus on the relevant one, in this case, the second language. And it is effortful for the brain. It's hard. And the less competent we are in the second language, the harder it is for the brain to do that. Let me make this clear with an example. It's easier to tell with an example. Say I am a Turkish person. Say I am talking about food, and I'm going to say apple. The Turkish word for it, elma, pops up in my mind, and I need to inhibit, suppress elma, and say apple instead. So it's more effortful for the brain. And again, the less proficient I am in the second language, the harder it is for the brain to do that. So it is an effort. But it gives the bilinguals a certain advantage, which is called bilingual executive control advantage, which is the bilingual advantage in focusing attention and ignoring irrelevant stimuli. Like bilinguals do it all the time. If they are talking a second language on a regular basis, they need to inhibit the irrelevant data, the native words, so to say, and they need to focus their attention on the relevant data, which is the second language, which makes them more competent at ignoring distractions, also in various cognitive domains, not only in speaking a second language. This is new research. Like everything about brain is recent research, but there is substantial evidence that bilinguals, especially if not very competent in the second language, bilinguals are better at ignoring distractions, more goal-focused attention, more selective attention, and like focusing on the task at hand. They are better at doing this in various domains, cognitive domains in life, right? Am I going too fast, or do you have any comments, or you want me to, go on?
Well, maybe in the meantime, we can tell our audience that if they have questions, they can just write in the chat room, and I can transfer it to Idil. Well, you're going very well, Idil. And
okay, we can also answer questions later because it's an interesting topic. So I'm okay. I'll be talking about more effects of speaking a second language. Now, these are again, assuming you are a Turkish person and you are hearing those two expressions like shame on you and utan, the Turkish version of it. So considering Turkish is your native language and you are hearing these expressions, and if I could measure your electrodermal response, which reflects your emotional arousal, it would be higher, stronger in the utan version when you hear the expression in your native language.
Because that is your mother tongue, huh?
Exactly. Because that's your mother tongue. The emotional arousal is more intense. That is very important.
That is directly linked to the emotional parts of the brain, like our mother tongue.
Exactly. Yes, that's the fact. Like when it's the second language, especially learned later, like classroom learned, is more cognitive. It's more cognitively processed, but the native language is more automatically processed, right? Like, I will talk more about this, but one more example, because there's been substantial research based on this topic. And one of them, it was about Harry Potter, like just one example. Participants were listening either in their native language or in their second language, which is English, like dramatic passages of Harry Potter, like frightening passages or, dramatic passages. And it's been revealed that in the native language here, German, the emotional arousal is stronger. The emotional arousal is more intense compared to the second language, which brings us to the fact that using a second language can make people less emotionally reactive. Emotional words in second language are processed more like semantic information and less like felt experience, right?
Wow.
That's an interesting.
I have a question here.
Of course.
This, like you said a minute ago, one is taken the emotional message taken automatically, and with the second language we stay in the more cognitive side.
Yes.
And so that this kind of perception, I think I experience with that with my 10-year-old right now.
Yeah.
English is my second language, but he has been for years now, he has been abroad. And when I tell him to do something in Turkish, I don't get any response. So, but if I tell him that, Kaan, you need to, turn that iPad off and, go to your bed and it's bedtime right now, I get the response. So it's like right now he emotionally reacts to second language. I understand that it's becoming his first mother tongue, because he responds with the emotion, with the reaction, not the reaction but the response. I mean, so you get a better answer for the language that is being working the automatic or the automatic level. Am I right?
It might be, yes. This is especially true. Our reaction to emotional arousal, to emotional words, our reaction is much more stronger. We react more emotionally. And as far as I see, your son he learned the second language, it's called simultaneous bilingual, from birth on. Yeah, or maybe early bilingual, before 3 years of age. It's different. Yes, it's automatic. This foreign language effect is especially prevalent for people who learn the second language after 6 or 7 years old, especially classroom learned. It's different. The native one is more automatic, and the second language is more cognitive. Oh, right. And like you said, maybe you would find this visual more interesting. Researchers link this to how emotional meaning is learned, right? When we learn our native language as in childhood, and it is acquired in emotionally rich environments, usually in families, and is around comfort, fear, punishment, affection, the emotion, the language, everyday emotional experience. The language is embedded in everyday emotional experience, it's part of it. So it's tightly connected to emotional memory systems. So the link between emotions and words are stronger, so to say. Yeah. But the second language, especially if it is learned after childhood means around 6 or 7. If especially it is learned in classrooms, then it is less emotionally grounded, more cognitively meditated and controlled. So it is more analytical. Yeah, less automatic.
Yes, that explains.
Yeah, and it brings us to various conclusions. It has various impacts on us. First, I would like to go on with question. Maybe you are familiar with this question. There are two versions of it.
So are we going to make a poll of this?
Yeah, can we make the poll if we can, Nihat Bey? If we can make our own poll, and I will talk about that. Imagine you have a serious heart condition. A recommended surgery has a 90% survival rate. Would you choose to undergo the surgery? And we do our own poll if we can. Do we have any questions? Sorry, response? Nihat Bey, do we have any response that we can share?
Yes.
We can share the response.
I think it's coming, huh? In the meantime, we have a question at the chat box. I'll come to you with a question as well after this one.
Okay. But let me go on with why I asked the question. There is, sorry, the second version of the same question. Imagine you have a serious heart condition. A recommended surgery has a 10% death rate. Would you choose to undergo the surgery? So what would your answers be to the first one and to the second one? As you see, they are the same thing basically, but the wording is different. The framing is different, so to say. We can share if we have a poll, we can share the results.
Let's answer let's ask our audience to answer the second question as well, and let's get to rates.
Okay, so we have our own poll.
Questions.
If we have our own responses, we can share. If some technical problem, I go on.
No problems. No, we got good responses coming in. Majority still leaning towards yes, not as much as before, but still some.
Because I don't see anything.
Yeah. So slightly over, so 63% to 38%. It's in favor of yes. Previously was much higher for yes. So yeah.
Previously much higher for yes, right? In question one.
Yeah.
Okay. Because on my screen I don't see anything. So okay. Let me share the responses, and then I tell you why that important is. For the first version, like 90% survival rate, it's not surprising. It's called survival frame condition. About 80 to 90% of the participants say yes, I would undergo the surgery. But in the second version, which is called mortality frame condition, just about 50 to 60% of the participants say that they would undergo the surgery. And there is the approximately 30% difference you see, which is called the framing effect. Like it's basically the same thing, but how we frame it, how we word it, changes people's response to it. Why is that so? Because obviously in the first version, people think of survival, so it's comforting. But obviously in the second version, people think of death, which is threatening. So they refrain from, giving their consent. But this is the case in the native language. This is the case in the native language. When the same thing has been asked in the second language, only 65 to 70% give their consent. And it's about the same percent, only 55 to 60 give their consent in the second mortality frame condition. This is the native language, and this is the second language. Why is that so? Why do we see this difference between the native language and second language? Because in the survival frame condition, in second language, the survival is not as comforting anymore. See? It's not as comforting anymore. And in the second one, the mortality frame condition, death is not as threatening anymore. Because in the second language, we treat things, we evaluate things more based on numbers, more based on probability, like statistics, less emotional, less mental shortcuts, less biased, but more based on statistics, more
This is second
analytical.
language. This is
It's second language. Yeah, yeah. In native language, we take mental shortcuts, as seen here, like seeing this bias, framing bias is a mental shortcut. We do that all the time. It's human psychology. But these biases are much less when we speak a second language, especially when that is learned later in life like classroom learned. We are less emotional in second language. Yeah, which brings us to this foreign language effect. Using a second language make people more analytic and less loss averse in risk choices, because loss in second language is not as frightening, is not as threatening, it's not as vivid as it is in the native language. Right? Am I going too fast, or you want me to go on?
No, no, you're going very well, but there is a question about this particular part. Maybe you want to go with that, Idil? Shall I ask the question
Of course.
to you? All right. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
It is if your native language is Turkish and English is your second, but you lived in English-speaking countries for considered time, sometimes you can find yourself expressing very emotional things in English. Is there a reason for it, considering what you have told?
What you have told?
Yeah, what you have told. I mean, what you mentioned a little earlier.
Okay. Yeah, what is important is that when we learn that language, because if it is learned in childhood, it is connected to emotional systems. If it is learned later, the research shows it is less emotional and more deliberative. But it is also depending on, if we use it on a daily basis, because if we use it on a daily basis, like every day, it might also get more automatic, but nothing like childhood learned language. When it is learned, childhood is connected to emotions, like direct connection. There's been a lot of research, but I haven't read anything that says that, later learned language can be as connected to emotions as, early bilingualism. So.
All right. One more. Is it grows the same way for the third language? That's a good question, actually. Thank you.
Yes, third language. Yeah, of course. Second language, third language. Yes, of course. We can say the same thing. Yeah. Bilingualism, multilingualism. No difference.
Okay. Please continue.
The thing is, the most important thing is the age the language has been learned. The age.
All right.
When it is.
Once Piaget stated, abstract mind is like until like year 12. So before year 12, it's most of the things like goes into brain is like abstract and emotional. So any sound in form of words and language is they are attached to emotions and the tangible, not abstract but tangible things. So I believe the word itself seems the experience. It's everything. Every word, like at the previous slide, it was one of them was like about survival. The other one is about mortality. Even the word itself exposes the experience. It recalls all the memory regarding that single word.
If it is the native language.
Every word is experience, actually, isn't it? Coffee is an experience. Sit, run, food. It's every word is experience, and it recalls the emotion attached to it. So it's when you learn it during your childhood, it is attached to your survival drives.
All the emotions.
It is attached to your emotionals.
emotions, and only after that cognitive, like after maybe 12, 15, like you said, it becomes with the cognitive, let's say, interpretations.
Yeah, yeah. Here in these language researches, it says like until about age 7, language is learned automatic. This is like you know, early bilingualism. But after 7 to 12, like unlike Piaget, it's called more like a transition period. That's what they say, the transition period, where still, I mean, you have an accent like a native speaker, for instance, but after approximately the year of 7 until 12, the way you learn it is said explicit, like more like adults, more like grown-ups, the way you learn a language, you know, that makes a difference.
And
like
that's
before
year 7 at
yeah,
class.
yeah, before, yeah, until the year of approximately 7, the language is embedded in the, you know, your emotional environment. Everything is embedded in the emotions. But after the age of 7, it is usually classroom learned. And even if it's not, the way you learn a language is more cognitive, you know, more like grown-ups. So that makes a difference in the brain. That makes a difference in the brain. Yeah. So I have one more question. Are we done? Are we done? You want me to go?
I think you can. We have one more question as well. If you want to take it now, maybe you want to answer later. But I'll tell the question. As long as you become master on the new language, does it change?
Research shows no. I mean, it's not black and white, you see, it's human. It's not black and white. But what is important here is that you have to learn the language as a child, before the age of 6 or 7. So
it doesn't have to do with mastering.
I would say no. Yes. I would say no.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said we will have one more poll?
Yeah. Let's do it. Maybe you're familiar with this. This is a classic trolley dilemma example. And this is a question which has been used in various researches like hundreds of times. So, but it's always interesting. And here you will see another interesting aspect of it. First, I tell you the question. There's this runaway trolley and it's running down the track. And it's about killing those five people tied on the rails, okay? And you are that person, that unfortunate person with the lever on his or her hand, okay? You are that person with the lever on your hand. And if you pull the lever, the trolley might switch to the other track where one person is tied on the rails, okay? So if you don't do anything, the trolley would kill those 5 people. But if you pull the lever, the trolley would switch to the other track and kill 1 person. What would you do? It's hard to decide maybe, but please pick one action, like decide something. So if we have the poll, we can again, you know, ask the question. And you can let me know, Mr. Burak, if because I cannot see on my screen what the percentage is. So would you pull the lever? Would you pull the lever? If yes, the trolley would switch the track and kill 1 person. If no, you don't do anything, the trolley would kill those 5 people. Yes or no? Please decide, make a decision. So do we have our responses? By the way, this is usually the question when I ask this in class. Do we know the people? Are they young? Are they old? Whatever. You don't know any of them, and you cannot see if they are old and young. And,
are they politicians nowadays or not?
Yeah, nothing. Just, you know, anonymous people. You don't know nothing about them, and you don't know any of them. So make your decision accordingly, please.
I mean, if politicians are involved nowadays, you don't have difficulty to find volunteers, play with the lever.
Yeah, but no, this is anonymous.
All right.
So
Okay. If you have the answers, maybe Durujan, we can't see you, Durujan. Probably.
Yeah. Just slightly over in favor of yes. So
Okay.
about 63% yes, 30
63.
no's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I ask my last question, and then we
Go.
share the
Okay.
okay. Now there is the second version of this, where the same runaway trolley running down the track, about to kill 5 people tied to rails, and you are that person on the footbridge, and you are standing next to this big guy, and you can push the big guy down on the tracks, and he would stop the trolley with his body, like he would be dead, but the other 5 people would be saved. Okay.
Wow.
So you are, I mean, you cannot, I mean, your options, 2 options. You don't do anything, or you push the guy down in front of the trolley and save those 5 people, but that guy will be killed, obviously. So would you push the guy or no? What is your response? Please choose something, pick something. Would you push the guy? Yes or no? If you push him, he would be dead. If you don't, 5 other people would be dead. Again, you don't know any of the persons involved. Hard decision.
Hard decision, and it's showing the results where now no is ahead.
You wouldn't.
No, they would, yeah, just under 60%. So yeah.
So in the first version where you push the lever, it was like 63%, you said, if we had that. And in the second version where you have to push the guy, it's about how many said yes?
So we're actually now, 40 odd percent on yes, and then 50 odd percent on no. So
Really?
slightly more no's. Yeah.
Because this is, more no's. Okay, let me share it, then we'll see why is that.
Yeah.
Is it?
Okay. Now, if this question is asked in native language, you know, and like I said, this question has been asked, I mean, more than hundreds of times in various researches, and a typical response for the first version, like pulling the lever, about 80% of the participants say they would pull the lever, you know, to save 5 people and instead kill that one person. But the other footbridge version, only 17% say they would push the guy. This is a typical response. Okay, why is that big difference? Why do you think? Any suggestions? You can share in the chat box, or I can go on. I'm sure you might have some.
I have my own perspective. Is it because you're like in contact with the person itself that you have to push him? I mean, it's in your hands.
Yes,
it's in your hands.
It's in your bare hands is his life. Exactly.
You
like
don't have
in the first, so you feel involved. In the first version where you have the lever in your hand, you don't feel involved. You know, there's this space created. It is called impersonal version anyway. It's impersonal, you know. So you can act more deliberatively. You can act more on numbers. I mean, 1 instead of 5. So this is the way to think, more cognitively, so to say. But in the second version, like killing someone, pushing someone with your own bare hands, you know, it's something different. You feel involved. And it creates emotional, like intense emotions like horror, or, you know, moral conflict, or disgust even, maybe, or anything, any emotional, it's emotionally intense. I mean, because there's no space, you feel involved in it. And then you say, I mean, it's hard to, you know, push him down. So you wouldn't. I mean, but this is not, you wouldn't, like only 17% said they would. The majority cannot. But this is the fact, as you might have guessed now, when it's asked in native language. When it is the same trolley questions are asked in the second language, in the first version, it's again about 80% say, yes, I would pull the lever, because it's, I mean, already the impersonal version, you know, it's impersonal, it's not emotional, it's more analytic. But in the personal version, where emotional intensity come into picture, here, 40% say they would push the guy. Like, I think our own poll also says something like this, because it's maybe the second language for a lot of people.
So it is all, although it's a visual realm, it's a it looks like a visual perception problem. When language involved, it affects the decision.
Of course, because you are communicating, you are articulating, you are thinking in that language, of course, because if you are communicating in that language, so everything is less emotional, everything is more analytical, everything is more based on statistics and numbers and probabilities and stuff, less emotions, less emotionally intense. Here in this, in our example, it's less horrorful or less, you know, frightening, or you feel less guilty, you know, less involved. Everything about emotions is less in the second language. So that's why this big difference. This brings us to the conclusion that that research reveals. In the second language, we make more utilitarian decisions, which means the greatest good for greatest number of people. Our decisions tend to be more number-based and utilitarian in the second language. People are more analytical and more utilitarian. So we talked about, I mean, it's been more than 30 minutes and we talked about a lot. So I would like to do a recap, and then I can, you know, have questions about this topic. First of all, we talked about language control, that it requires executive control. So bilinguals or multilinguals are better at inhibiting irrelevant stimulus and focusing on relevant stimulus. They are good at focusing on the task at their hand and inhibiting the distractions in various cognitive domains, not only in speaking a second language, but in various cognitive domains. Yeah. And we talked about that the second language is less emotionally grounded, especially if learned after childhood. This emotional distancing in second language means smaller physiological response, reduced loss aversion. Loss is not as frightening, is not as vivid. So, you know, you can take calculated risks more easily in second language. And the judgments are more utilitarian in second language, which means the decision-making is more deliberate, yeah, more calculative, less automatic, less emotional, more calculative in the second language. In native language, we say better safe than sorry, which means that we, you know, like to be on the safe side because risk is too vivid, too big. Like I said, we don't want to take risks because everything is, I mean, frightening. It might be more frightening in native language. Not everything is frightening, of course, but if there is a risk, it looks more vivid, more concrete in native language. And fear-based messages, this is interesting, like when you think of the impacts of, you know, fear-based messages are more compelling in native language. Moral or social risks feel more salient in native language as opposed to second language. Yeah. More reliance on intuition, like we take shortcuts easier. We take mental shortcuts like we did in this framing. You remember the framing effect was less in second language and more in native language. Our psychological biases are hundreds, thousands. We do them every day. But in native language, more. In second language, less bias, less mental shortcuts, less hunch, less gut feeling, less intuition, but more based on numbers, more analytical evaluation, handling things, more analytical in second language.
Well, this explains my morning routine. My morning routine is sometimes it's like noontime, and if it's noontime, it's like stress levels like getting high because of the like work, and nowadays it's a little bit chaos here, as you may know. And my routine is to walk while listening to my storytell books in English. And when my anxiety is high, when my stress is high, when I start to listen a book, and most of the time it's about management and like professional stuff, let's say. And so it's a very rational, very cognitive, very structured, very. I mean, there's no emotion in management or in that stuff, you know. So it is like, you know, a meditation to me. My anxiety calms down, my stress calms down, because I listen in English, my second language, because I learned it after, of course, 7. And so it's, you know, it takes out the emotion out of the equation. Like my blood circulation is like filtered with the listening through this English book. And it kind of cleans my emotions through my blood circulation. It's really
but I would refrain from saying that the second language would make you less stressful. No, it's not what I meant. It's not what I meant. I mean, it must be your routines, you know, taking and listening to something that calms you down. But also, for instance, something positive, like emotionally positive, also hits us more in our native language, you know. Something happy makes us happier. You know, something positive is more, you know, moving. It hits, I mean, both positive and in negative sense.
But that makes you sensitive to the messages coming from your environment.
So if the messages are always negative, yes, in your native language, you feel the negativity, the intensity more. Hopefully we'll get more positive messages, and, you know, we start feeling that them more positively. I don't know.
All right.
Okay, so in native language, the negotiation style might be more defensive, right? People are more precautionary and more resistant to certain outcomes. But in the second language, the negotiation style is more deal-focused, more risk-tolerant, less emotional reaction to loss scenarios, and more utilitarian bargaining, right? Now, think of all the multinational institutions.
More analytical.
Yeah, much more analytical in second language. Now, when you think of all the multinational institutions, you know, negotiating, discussing, for instance, European Union, trying to, you know, make some decisions like negotiations about targets and everything. Some of them are doing this in their second language, and some of them are doing this in the first language. Like when you think of like, considering what we talked up to now, when you think of the differences, you know, or the multinational firms trying to, you know, make decisions like negotiating stuff, trying to make investment decisions, if they are doing this in their second language, they would be looking at from an analytical point of view. You know, everything would be more deliberative. Calculated risks are taken easier, more easy than, you know, native language. And everything would be more deal focused, more based on trade-offs, based on, you know, pros and cons, and, you know, based on numbers and probabilities and statistics. But when the same people go home and explain everything in their native languages, you know, to local people, say to employees or stakeholders or whatever, everything in native language is more emotional. They can move you more. Risks look more frightening, or loss case scenarios, or, you know, job loss or reputation loss threats. Everything looks more vivid, more concrete, more emotional. So you might get in your native language more vigilant, maybe, you know, not prone to take risks, like more loss averse, more, you know, guaranteed choice. Yeah. So that is a difference that research reveals us. And having said that, I would like to, seeing that we already been talking about more than 40 minutes, to the second topic, if you like. And if you have questions, I see we have questions, but after the presentation, I will be gladly answering them. The second topic won't be as comprehensive as this one, right? It would be shorter, and I will tell you why. It's about the coexistence of cultural values and national personality tendencies. The research says that some cultural values co-vary with some national personality tendencies. Okay, it is easier to explain with an example. So let me give you this example. Individualism on the left is a cultural value. It is a cultural dimension found in every cross-cultural comparison framework, like scientific cultural frameworks. It is, simply put, the extent to which a culture emphasizes the independent self over the collective self, okay? And extraversion, it is a dimension found in every personality inventory, which is, simply put, the tendency toward sociability, assertiveness, and seeking stimulation. So research says these dimensions, cultural dimension and personality dimension, they co-vary, which means that in individualistic societies, the national average of extraversion is higher. I would like to emphasize that it doesn't mean the extroversion in every single person. No, the national average of extroversion, right? Of course, they will be introverts, but the aggregate rate, the national average would be higher of extroversion in individualistic countries, cultures. Why is that so? Let's look at the behavioral aspects. Individualistic societies reward behaviors like self-expression, initiating social contact, personal goal pursuit, and independence, among the others. And no wonder extroverted behavioral tendencies are self-expression, initiating social contact, seeking stimulation, and assertiveness. No wonder that they co-vary, right? Because the behavioral aspects are almost the same. They overlap. The behavioral tendencies overlap, okay? And that's why this is called person-culture fit. This is just an example of individualism and extrovert behavior, which means that everything else being equal, if a person is extrovert, he would live more happily, maybe, in an individualistic environment, okay? And if he's trying to adjust to a new culture, to a new environment, the adjustment would be easier for an extrovert if the culture is individualistic and everything else being equal, of course. I mean, this makes adjustment smoother because, I mean, what I do is welcomed in this culture, is rewarded in this culture. Of course, I would feel good about, what I feel and what I do. So adjustment is smoother, right?
That makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, this is one example, and I would like to give just a last example. I don't want to overwhelm you with this terminology because it has a certain terminology. And I know it's hard to sit on the screen and listen to someone talk all the time. So I want to cut it short because I mean it's been 50 minutes already.
Yeah, we are happy.
Thank you. So one last example. It is about uncertainty avoidance, which is the degree to which a culture feels uncomfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity. Uncertainty avoidance is also a basic dimension found in all cross-cultural comparison frameworks, right? Research says it co-varies with neuroticism, tendency to experience anxiety and worry more frequently and intensely, simply put, of course. Neuroticism is also a basic personality dimension found in all personality inventories like Big Five, for instance, or Hogan. And research says they co-vary. And no wonder that they do, because high uncertainty avoidant cultures tend to prefer clear structure, avoid ambiguity, unpredictability, and emphasize security and risk control, right? Because they need structure in order to avoid ambiguity. And people high in neuroticism typically are more sensitive to threat and uncertainty. They prefer predictability, and they feel more comfortable when risks are controlled. So everything else being equal, if you are a person with high neuroticism, and if you are trying to adjust to a new culture where the uncertainty avoidance is high, then things might be easier for you than trying to adjust to a low uncertainty avoidant cultures where people are much more relaxed and not stressful, and life is taken as it comes. It would be harder for you, of course, everything else being equal. If a country is individualistic or uncertainty avoidant or other dimensions, you can find scientifically, for instance, on Hofstede. I mean, you can find them online. Hofstede has this country comparison tool, and you can look up countries and you can see their points and their positions. And if you have been through a personality inventory yourself, you could see your personality dimensions where you are. And if you are thinking of going to live in another culture, it might be easier for you maybe to pick which culture to go and to, how adjustment would be for yourself, easy or harder. So I will be, silenced now, and I'm expecting if any comments or questions are coming. These are the last words. These are vast subjects, really, and I try to discuss one or two points. And I'd be happy if I could provide some insights of how language and culture would affect our way of thinking and behaving. So thank you. So any comments or questions are welcome now.
Thank you very much, Ida. Let me check the questions. I have one actually, but let me check the questions as well. We have a question regarding second language. Does living in your second language country for a long time affect all these? I mean, if you are living there for more than 5 years, are these findings still applicable?
Of course they are. I mean, what I talk about second language, it is important when you learned it, because if you learned the second language in childhood, it is like more an automatic system, okay? If you learned it after childhood, it's not as automatic anymore. But still, of course, your age, your frequency of speaking that language, these all of course matter. But as far as research shows, it is never the same as you learned the language in like from birth on. Like it's something different. It is not as automatic. But these are all recent research, so every day we learn more. So but research shows that.
Also, I wonder with those visual tests, how hearing impaired people would answer to those visually, shown decision-making problems. That would be an interesting thing as well.
Yeah, of course. Still, they are registering they are reading, they are registering they are not hearing but reading the language. Maybe in some way they are processing the language, and it's still reading or hearing doesn't make any big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And this the cultural differences. I used to, divide, not scientifically, of course, divide the cultures into two, like comfortable cultures and survival cultures. And comfortable cultures are like more planned, more, predictable. Things are more predictable, and you when you cross a pedestrian, when you you expect the red lights and the cars are going to stop, and you can walk across the road.
But on the other side, the survival cultures, like you can expect anything. If the light goes red, you need to double check it, triple check it, and once you get to once you get used to live in that survival environment long enough, when you go to the predictable cultures, it's a totally different story, and the vice versa. I mean, survival cultures. Let's say maybe the neurotic version. When it goes to the predictable countries, it's all right. But when the opposite happens, that is a pretty confusing situation. I mean, once everything is as planned, predictable, life goes on as is expected, and then it changes. Like, you find once you'll find yourself like in let's say in America, then like in India. So I mean, it's totally a different ball game regarding the perception.
Yeah, and your personality is a very big factor in that.
Isn't that?
Yeah, in your adjustment. Yes. Yeah.
Isn't that? Idil, thank you very much.
Thank you
for tonight's this rich content and presentation. Your lovely personality as well. It's been a great pleasure to host you.
Thank you.
And also for our audience, I may give a little bit teaser for our coming webinars. And it's our coming webinar is going to be about business simulations, a subject that is more analytic, and but it's more interesting and very, very insightful as well. It's a great tool in our business management environment, and I would like to see our audience following us, and we'll also inform you in the due course. So thank you very much for everybody for joining us tonight, and for tonight, thank you, and stay safe wherever you are. And
I wish you all the best there in Qatar. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.